Hey coding owls, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about the map function in JavaScript, one of the very important function. The reason I have created a dedicated video for map is exactly its importance. Now here imagine that we have an input array, and that input array I want to apply a transformation on every element of that input array. So we have a function called as map in JavaScript. Now, as you can see in the example I am showing on the screen, consider I have a array which numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and I want a alphabetic representation of them. I will actually make use of map function in JavaScript, pass that every element to that map function, get the output. And one thing about map function is for every input, you will always get an output. Yeah, and we have already seen the filter function. You can check out the link in the description, or you might be seeing on the screen right now. So the basic difference between filter and map is basically, for filter you take an element and you pass it through a function. If that function returns a true, we will be considering that output element into the resultant array. Whereas in map, as you have seen, every input we actually apply a transformation function which will return a value. So for every input in the map, you will always get a value back. Based on that, we have got some different elements as well. For example, the number of input elements and output elements are not always same in filter, because when you're filtering, some data might go off. Rarely a case where in a filter you get everything back. And in map, obviously the number of input and output elements are always same. Why? Because we are applying a function to every element and we are getting an output back. Obviously the output element will always have those values, but on other hand, the type of input elements and output elements are always same in filter, because if you are filtering a array of numbers, the output array will also be of numbers. But for example, you are using an input array of a number and you want the spelling representation of it. So the input type was int, whereas the output type is a string now. And you can see I have given a simple example here. So this is how your filter and map are deferred, and map function is very important. Every element will go through a transformation function, get a final output. So let's jump into the VS Code and start coding for this. So in my VS Code, I am creating another file here. Let me call it as map function dot, oh, my caps lock is on, map function dot js. And here let's take an array. Simple. Let's do a very simple example first. Const numbers is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I want to basically apply the filter map function, and I want to say for every function. So let's say double me. I'm going to create a function called as double me. Double me will do what? Take a number and return number multiplied by 2. Okay. And then how do I write the map function? So let's say const doubled numbers is equal to numbers dot map, and I will pass the double me. Now what will double me do? You remember from last time, right? Every element in the numbers will be passed on through this function. It will take that element and it will redouble that number and return us back. So if I say console log original, okay, and I pass the numbers and I pass double the numbers now. So let's say double. So I've got this, save it, and let's try to execute this now. So if I say node space, see, original was this, updated what? Doubled was this one. So if you can see, for every number in the numbers array, I am passing it to a function called as double me, which is returning number mod 2, multiplied by 2, and the output we are storing. So for every element, we have a transformation array. We are not using any conditional operators here. We pass the function and pass it to the function and it returns us a value. So this is the beauty of map function. And let's go back to the code. This time what I have done is used it through a different function. But let's say I want to create a squared functions, like every element I want squared. So I can say squared functions, squared numbers. and I can simply do numbers dot map. And because this is I can use an this is a higher order function, I can use a callback function. So why not use a arrow function here? So I'll say for every number in numbers, return me number multiplied by number. So this way we are able to can simply do this console log, and I can say squared numbers comma squared numbers. Okay, and if I try to run this again, squared numbers 1, 4, 9, 16. Okay, so this way what we are doing, we are taking care of the map functions, and this is how it works. Now, why is it so relevant when it comes to React and Angular? And why am I creating this specific code and like dedicated video for map? Because this is one of the most used functionality when you go to React, Angular, and so on. So if you see my element on the screen right now, if you see for the things what I have now, consider from backend we are going to get four different objects which contains the name and let's say gender or something, and we have to convert that into an element. So again we will be making use of the map function. How? Here for every element which we get, for example from the backend we are getting the user profiles and we want to convert it into a UI. So this is what I am planning to do. Obviously our output will not be available in JavaScript. In React it renders, but I can create the HTML code out for it. So let's see how we can do that. Let's say this is our second example where I have const users as my array, but this array is considered to be made up of objects. So let's say ID1, name Tom, gender department, let's say IT, and let's create this four times, and let's see how it can be done now. So I use VS Code shortcuts. So we have got ID 1, 2, 3, 4, Tom, Marian, Elizabeth, Leonard. Okay. Then let's say they are in departments IT. This is also an IT. This let would make them of finance, and here also we'll make of finance. So simple array, and I want to now convert this in this map function. I want to write so that for every element. So consider I have my output like this. I have a division tag. I have a division tag. Inside this division tag, I have a h1 tag which shows their name. Okay, which shows their name. Then for h2 tag is displaying their department. Yeah, h2 tag is displaying their department, and somewhere in the bottom in a paragraph tag, I am displaying their ID. Okay, and this is the output I want for every single user. Like I want to convert this into a division object here. So how will I do that? Let's begin with that. I will comment this off here, but keep it available for me because I'll be using it. Now let's write a function which will the map will call for every time converting this. So I'll say transform to component for every user. What will I do? I want to return. So I want to return a long text, so I'll use pair of ticks allows me to write multi-line string in JavaScript very easily. So I will use the same components copy pasted here, and between this I will say dollar question mark user dot name. So dollar question mark is what nothing but string interpolation, which allows me to concatenate string in another string. So user dot department, and I also have user dot id. And now what I do, I'll say const transformed users is equal to users dot map. So for every element in the user object will be passed on to what transform to component. And if I print transformed users, see the output I'm going to get. This is beautiful. Oh, I got an error. Let's fix this. Ah, there was an error in the input, so I used a period symbol rather than a comma. So let's fix that. Has to be a comma separated value. Make the change. We don't need it after the last one. And so here you can see I have got the division objects which are created, and I have got Tom IT and one. Then here I have got Mariam IT, then Elizabeth Finance and Leonard Finance. Now obviously this is printed here, so the string will look up and down. But when you do it in your React application, it actually becomes the rendered output, and you can fix it under with CSS and anything you want. So this is how map function is very important. And so thank you for watching this video. You can find the source code in the description, and please do subscribe.